Inside this video topic, we'll discuss an important concept of JavaScript, and that is some of the important methods of JavaScript which we can use inside JavaScript arrays. After getting the concept from this video, after learning, you can implement these concepts while working with any of the JavaScript framework or even with the core JavaScript. So what are those methods? So here we have a list. So inside these methods, we'll learn the complete concept of map method, find method, filter method, find index, sum method, and every method. Let's get started about our first method, that what is the basic purpose of map method and how to use while working with JavaScript array. So simply, I'll go to the browser console. So instead of creating any file like inside any JS file, I will simply go and learn all the concept from this browser console. Because while working with these methods, we don't need any plugin file. So simply here inside this console tab. So first I will go and let's say console.log happy learning with JS methods. Hit enter. Simple, we can see that it is consoling. So what to do? And one more thing, one basic concept also I will discuss, that if anyone asks from you that what is an object here and what is an array. So how to give or how to differentiate an object and an array. So simply, if suppose if I create any variable, for example, student, or let's say book here, and if I create that variable using this curly pairs, it means that it is an object, and inside this object we can store properties. For example, the book title, here will have some title, then book price, we can store book price value, and it will be something, let's say some integer value. Inside title, some of like string value, book one string value, price value is something like a integer value. Then we have something publication, and let's say that India is the publication country. So we can see that it's an object, and inside this object here we have three properties called title, price, and publication. And here we have created a book object. So simply, if we want to access any value from this object, for example this title value, so object name dot property name, now we can see that we are getting our property value. Now, in same way, if anyone who asks that what is an array and how to define, so simply let's clear first. Let book equals to, I will create the same variable book equals to, but this time we have to create an array. So to create an array, we have to use square bracket. Remember, for an array, we have to use a square bracket, and for an object, we have to use curly pairs. So we can store like the same set of data type of values. For example, here we have, let's say string 1, string 2. So we can see that here we have an array called book, and inside this book here we have two values inside this array which is of same type like of string values. So either we can create an array of the same value type, or simply we can store like for integer value. Then we have some like a string value, some of the boolean value, some of the float value. So it means an array which contains same type of value or will have some different type of values. Now, here comes the concept that what is the purpose of those methods, what we had discussed, like map method, find method, and all the methods that we have to learn. So first I'll create an array here. So let's say const books equals to, let's create an array. And inside this array, I'll create our first object, let's say book name, and I will call it as book one, let's say price value 50, and publication country, or simply I will call it as, let's say country equals to India. So this is our first object inside this array. Now let's copy, put it here. This is our second object. So book 2, and I will put it at, for example, let's say 50 price, and here let's say Australia. Then I will go and create one more object, and here let's say book 3, 45, and let's say USA. One more object we need, and that is, let's say book 4, price will be, let's say 60, and it is from India. So successfully, now we have created an array that is called books. And inside this array, here we have four different types of object. But each object contains three properties called name, price, and country. Just hit enter. It is returning undefined value. But whenever we type called books here, hit enter. Now we can see that here we have an array. And inside this array, we have four different objects. Let's open and now we can see that inside this first index as a zeroth index, here we have the first object which contains name, price, and country. So here, first we'll discuss the concept of map method. So simply, we can use the concept of map method to iterate over each object. For example, right now we have an array of object. So to iterate over each object or over each element of that array. So simply, our array name called books. Then I will use map method. It will take callback function, and inside this callback function it's really very important because this function is going to iterate over each object of this array. So inside this books, as we know that we have four objects, so by the help of this callback function we can iterate over each object of this books. So simply single book, and here we have the index. Then let's define a curly pairs. So for the time being, if I use console.log, and here, if I print, let's say single book, hit enter, and now you can see that this map method, now by the help of this callback function, iterator over each object of this array, and by using console.log, now we can see that here we have four different objects. Now let's say that I'm not interested to print complete object. Instead, I want the value of this name and price. So what to do? Simply books here dot map method, and here inside this console, inside this callback function, single book, then here we have the index, and inside this curly pairs, what we want to print only the name. So here it will be single book dot name, and we want to print the price value. Save these changes, just hit enter. And now we can see that inside this console, here we have book 1, which is the title of the book and the price value. So simple concept that by using map method we can iterate over each element of that array. Now let's use our second concept, and that is find method. So first thing first, if I go and print all the books, so we can see that inside this array of object here we have name equals to book 1, it means our first book, second book, third book, and fourth book. Now we want to find a book which belongs to USA country. So we can see that book number 3 is from USA. So to find any value from this array, we can use find method. So here, let's say books dot find also takes a callback function, and inside this callback function here, we'll have our single book, and this is array index. So what we want to return, we want to return that object whose country belongs to USA. So here single book dot country equals to USA. Now if I hit enter, and now we can see that inside our books array, find method finds an object here that is book number 3 which belongs to country USA. But now the question is, what happens if suppose this country does not matches with any array, like any single book of this books array? So in that case, it is going to return undefined. For example, let's copy the same piece of code, and if I paste here, for example, if I type, let's say any country, for example, Nepal here, hit enter, and this country does not belongs to any object. So in that case, it is returning undefined value. So this is the use of find method to find any element, like the first occurrence of any element inside an array. For example, let's see one more example of this find method. So here, if I just print all the books, so we can see that inside this array here we have two books which belongs to country India at our 0th index and 3rd index. But what will happen if we use find method to find all the books of country India? So let's use first about find method. So books here dot find method. Inside this function, here we have our single book, then index, and inside here, if I tab, let's return single book dot country equals to India. So as we know that inside our array of object, here we have two values like two object. If I hit enter, now we can see that we are getting only a single object, and this is because find method only finds the first occurrence of any object, any value inside an array. But if we want all those values, simply we have to use the concept of filter. It means I want to filter those data whose country belongs to India. So what to do? Simply in place of this find method, only the difference is that we have to use filter because we want all the occurrence of that object. Simply, if I hit enter, now you can see that here we have an array of object, and inside this array, here we have two objects, and these two books belongs to this India country. Now next we'll discuss one more concept which is similar to this find method, and that is find index. Means like instead of getting this complete object on the basis of this condition, now this time we are interested to get only the index value. Now the question is, what is an index? So simply to understand what I will do, simply I will print all those values of an array, and inside this array we can see four objects. So inside each object, like before each object, we can see an index value, that is 0, 1, 2 and 3. So these are the indexes. So by using the concept of find index, instead of getting the complete object, now we want to get the index value. So simply it will return, for example, for this book, it will return 0th index. Now let's see in action. So books here dot find index. So we want to find the index of first occurrence of that element. And here, let's pass our callback function. So it will iterate over each book of books array. So single book index. And here inside that, what we want that if single book dot country equals to India. So in that case, we want to get the index value. So we can see that the first occurrence of that book which belongs to this country has index equals to 0. Now we want like the last occurrence of inside array. So how to get the index? As we know, inside our array we have two elements which is from India at a 0th index and a third index. Now this time we are interested to get the last index of that value. So for that we have to use another method, and it will be called find last index, and here find last index. Now once we use, simply this function is going to return the last occurrence of this book on the basis of this condition. So if I hit enter, now we can see our index equals to 3. And now next, let's discuss about two more methods called sum method and array method. Let me tell you that these methods are conditional methods because by the help of some condition, it is going to match with each object, and on the basis of that, it will return a boolean value. Either it will return true value or false value. So first I will go and clear. Let's go and print all those values. So books here. So we can see that inside this books array, here we have four different objects, and inside each object, here we have a price property called 50, 30, 45, and 60. Now on the basis of this price value, now let's create a condition. So first I will use sum method. So books.sum, and here inside this callback function, not space actually, let's remove. So inside this callback function, we have to iterate over each book. So single book index. Now let's put a condition here, that is return single book dot price. And if I put, let's say, a condition here that is 55, so if we go and manually compare this condition with each object, so we can see that this first book has a price of 50, which meet this condition. It means this price value is less than 55, so it will return a true value. Second book is also going to return the true value. Third book is also going to return the true value. But if we compare this fourth value, now this is going to return the false value because 60 is greater than 55. But as we are using sum method, it means that if at least any element matches this condition, so in that case, it will return the true value. But in place of sum method, if we use every method, let's use if I use every method, so in that case, this condition is going to match with each value, each index of that array. And as we know that our last index of that array does not meet this condition, so as a result, we'll get the false value. Now, this is the overall complete concept that how to use our map method filter, our find method, find index, find last index, some method, and every method. And keep in mind, these methods are really very important when we work with JavaScript arrays inside any of the concept, like inside React.js, Vue.js, AngularJS, or even with the core JavaScript concept. So friends, so this video is very important. So please give a thumbs up to this video, subscribe to this channel. Now let's meet to our next amazing video. So for this video session, guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.